So a big piece of that is actually keeping them here and getting them embedded in Kansas City and really getting them introduced to the community. So you're going to hear from two of them this morning, Destiny Wealth and Track.tax. One group's from Dallas and Tulsa. I just said Tulsa and Dallas in the same word. We're going to turn that into a thing for you, Parker. And then also we got Trent coming out from San Francisco from Track. So two really interesting companies, both at seed stage, but kind of at different points of that seed stage. So just be as helpful as you can, be as open as you can, be as critical as you can, be hard on them. And thank you all for the opportunity to get up here and share a story.
Thank you. And without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to our first presenter, Parker with Destiny Wealth.
Thank you. Everybody, I'm Parker Graham, CEO of Destiny, and I have to say I'm super excited to be here. I've heard about 1 million cups for a long time, and funny that the first time I get to come, I actually get to present. So kudos to us. So just to kind of get started, I want to tell you a little bit of a story kind of about my life and really why Destiny is here in the world, why we're trying to bring it here to the world. So I grew up not too far away from here, about two and a half hours south in Joplin, Missouri. Anybody heard of Joplin? Yeah? All right, awesome. So I went to a school called Webb City High School. So if you all played Webb City when you were in high school, I'm sorry, we probably beat you. Or if you have kids that are in school, we're probably beating them right now. It's a big sports town. It's a middle class town though, which is the most important thing. It is just blue collar people working as hard as they possibly can to make ends meet. And I was very fortunate to grow up with this lady right here. Now this is my mom with my two daughters. And she might not look like it, but she's actually in her 60s now. Kudos to her, right? Yeah, you can clap for that. And she was the stereotypical Midwestern single mom. She worked 2 jobs to put food on our table every single night. We didn't grow up in poverty, but we grew up, lower middle class. And she worked her butt off every single day to provide for us. And at the age of 33, decided to go back to college because she's awesome like that. And she decided to go chase her dream and become a nurse. But when she did that, she started providing for my brother, my sister, and I as best she could. And how she did that was she lived like 2/3 of Americans and lived paycheck to paycheck. Now that's great because growing up as an athlete, my brother was also an athlete, she always provided uniforms, shoes, cleats, and you can imagine I'm 6'7", so my shoe sizes sometimes grew twice in a year, maybe 3 times. And so she was constantly having to just make magic happen with our finances. And she did it. And it wasn't until I became an advisor in my new life that I started to realize really how she was doing that, making that magic happen. So I became a financial advisor after playing football at Oklahoma State. I then went on to play for the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL, and then became a wealth manager after seeing a lot of the problems that folks have with money. And little did I know that those problems that I saw athletes have were also happening in my home growing up. So now that I wasn't an advisor, my mom and I started having a lot of difficult conversations about when she can retire. She's now in her 60s, and unfortunately for my mom, just like a lot of Americans, she's not going to be able to retire when she wants to. And not only is she not going to be able to retire when she wants to, she's going to have to reduce her lifestyle to continue to live. The average American is now dying in their 80s. And their money is typically only lasting them a couple of years. Some of the scary stats, I'll put up some of the financial problems that we're seeing right now in the world. You can see a couple of them there, but really the most important ones, kind of the scariest stats are that 1 in 3 Americans has less than $5,000 saved for retirement. If you think about that for a second, that is nothing. And with Social Security looking to be gone by about 2025, that's a really scary stat. The worst part though, is that 21% of Americans have absolutely zero saved. 21% of Americans, you can look around in this room, 21% of us do not have anything saved in our 401k or 403b or 401a. And that is a huge, huge problem. So being an advisor, I had a really good friend that was a programmer. And we decided to really tackle this issue. We actually grew up together in Webb City. And we decided to tackle this issue head on and really try to figure out why we're having trouble with financial literacy and also why we're having trouble with income inequality. So what we built is Destiny. Now, as a financial advisor, I specialize in financial planning, and so we decided to create a financial planning app. And what Destiny allows you to do is it allows you to level up your finances. It allows you to take the curtain away from wealth management and get access to something that can actually help you grow your net worth without paying an exuberant amount of fees or an exuberant amount of charges or anything like that. What it does is it takes your current financial picture and creates an automatic four-step plan, an automatic four-step financial plan for you to be a millionaire using your current money habits today. So what we do is we go in, we look at your accounts, and we help you, give you exactly what you need to do progressively as you walk through life, and we guide you to that $1 million goal by the time you're in your 60s. So how do we do that? We do that through 4 different milestones. First one right there, the piggy bank, is your emergency fund. We help you establish a 1 month worth of your take-home pay in that emergency fund, and then that allows you to be able to handle any of life's missteps, right? We've all had that thing where our car breaks down or our hot water heater goes out. You use that money as opposed to using your debt or using your credit cards, that kind of thing. Then we move on, after you've completed that step, then we move you on to your debt recovery, which is where we're getting you to reduce your debt load, your DTI, by 5%. The average American looks at about 60% DTI, which is just crazy. That means for all of your money that's coming in, a lot of it's going out. We want to reduce that by 5%. Third step is your investments. And we're not an investment advisor. We're not a robo-advisor or anything like that. We're just helping you optimize your investments and trying to get you to put your dollars in the most tax-efficient and most cost-efficient manner for you so you can grow your wealth. And the last step, which is that giant briefcase full of Benjamins, is my favorite because as a financial advisor, ultimately, I want you to succeed. I want you to be worth more money than you ever thought of. And so as a company, at that section right there, we actually allow you to name your goal. You can go from $1 million dream to a $10 million, $15 million, or whatever you want, and then we restart the program over and solve for that function. So really what's important here is that we want everyone in the world to have complete access to financial wealth. And not just have access to it, but to be able to have wealth that they never thought was even possible. And for me personally, I want to make sure that every single one of you, when you have that conversation with your loved ones, when you have that conversation with your parents or with your kids, it's a much happier and fun conversation in your 60s because we reached you when you were in your 20s. So thank you.
So you said that you would take us where we're at with our current habits. It seems like we would have to change some habits, and so can you talk a little bit about how that looks?
Absolutely. So what I mean by taking where your current habits are today is that we're going to solve our program, our function, for where you're at right now. So what happens when you download the app, when you look at your current financial picture, we're going to give you a projected net worth at age 65, what you're worth right now. And the whole goal is to get that number to $1 million. So yes, you have to change your financial habits, but we're going to show you projecting what you're going to be worth at age 65 using what you're doing right now. And at the end of the day, we want to get you to understand those 4 different milestones, and through those milestones, you will see that number start to tick up.
Hi, Morgan from the library.
Hi, Morgan.
Yeah, that spotlight is legit.
This setting is really nice. You had a lot of nice ambiance here.
Great.
Yeah.
You, very confident speaker, did a great job. Loved your story. Like, we immediately stopped listening at that point to be like, oh my God, his mom. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was great. Just a tiny bit about body language. Your confidence as a speaker does not, it fights with the fact that you've got nervous feet. And you're doing a lot of this. So for us out here today, full of love for the person we're watching, not a problem. We look right past that. When you're in front of the big dogs, find that calmness and really start focusing on what's my body telling people, not just my voice.
Perfect.
You want to follow up?
Well, I'll say this. I appreciate that because I'm a fidgeter, and if anybody in my life knows that I'm a fidgeter, so really what I'd like to do is run around in a circle while I'm presenting. So that's definitely good advice there. Thank you.
Sorry, I take it back. Something you can really do about that that's like a presenter trick is give yourself movements when you change tactics and say, okay, I'm not allowed to move until it's really important to the story to move. And so by planning those movements into your pitch, you can control that need to fidget.
Perfect, thank you.
And I would say I got a little anxious about I appreciate the personal story, the background, kind of how you got to where you're at. Maybe shorten it a little bit, kind of cut to the chase, give it to us, but then I was anxious to hear about destiny. And then I get what you do, but then if you can explain a little bit more, what's the difference between all the other wealth management and things that are out there? Why would we choose destiny? I don't know if that was answered for me or not.
Sure, so you want me to answer that real quick? If we've got 4 days, we can do it. No, just kidding. So really the big difference between us is that the current apps that are out there in the space right now, most of them are either robo-advisors, which are going to charge you based on an asset fee, so however much money you have is what they're going to charge you against. And then the other ones are like banking apps and budget apps and that kind of thing. We are really the only wealth creation app without being an advisor, and how we do that is because we take your current money habits now, give you planning principles to back against that, and that will help you achieve that financial literacy and that knowledge by walking through those steps. The other side of that is what we charge for revenue. The first step of our process is absolutely free. After that, it's $5 a month, and it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter if you have $1 million already or if you have $0 in the bank. We believe at Destiny that as a financial institution, how can you ask somebody for something before you provide value? So our plan is to provide value first and ask for reimbursement second.
And I think maybe a slide that would have shown that you're saying that none of us have the 21%. How then does that look over maybe the next 5 years? If we start with you today, we only have so much per month, then if you could just show us like how that would look down the road if we were to sign up with you.
Perfect, awesome.
We'll take a couple more questions from the expert. If you have a question, please make your way to this microphone.
So you painted me an excellent picture, right? You've got your mom, she's working multiple jobs like most of the nation. She's doing great, she's kid-focused, making sure you have it better than she had it better. And I'm a little worried as soon as that happens that maybe you're a different kind of pirate than I am. Because how do you make your money? Are you selling this and then the business model changes? Like anytime someone says, I'm gonna fix the world by teaching you the things you need to survive, and I'm not a nonprofit, I begin to go, ugh, how's that gonna work? So if you feel comfortable, I don't want to ask an offensive question, please, how are you gonna make this work for you and your wealth?
Absolutely, so just personally, to be quite candid with you, being an advisor and seeing what wealth does to people, that's really not what I'm about, if that makes sense. I grew up middle class. I can live middle class the rest of my life. My goal is that if we can provide you value, if I can make 1 million millionaires through that app, we'll be fine on the back end. I'm not concerned with that right now. What I'm concerned with is you and really everybody in here. I want to make you wealthy. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not something that's going to be easy for anybody. But if you will follow the steps, you will be amazed as to what you thought you could attain to what you actually can attain, what your potential is. That's what gets me fired up, and I know just spiritually that if we can take care of those people, if we can take care of our users and people that we're really creating this for, then on the back end we will be taken care of and compensated.
Thank you. We're going to go with the audience question.
My concern is there's a lot of people in the world that live through recession, and one of the things that are consistent with wealth management is holding a job and having enough money to be able to contribute to all these things. What makes your company different from, say, how do you hold yourself accountable? We have found that people like Mr. Henry Paulson, who also took a lot from the American people in order to create wealth. How are you different from people like that, and how can you help the average American create wealth?
Absolutely. So this app is actually built for the average American. So folks that make anywhere from $40,000 and above in income. When you get below 40,000, it's much difficult. It's much more difficult, especially when you look at the student debt load that's out there right now. Student loans are and that was one of the problems we had on there. You could have a whole other speech about, in all honesty. But as student debt continues to rise and wage growth does not, you really, it gets very, very tough in that $30,000 to $40,000 range, but it's still attainable. So as far as your question about how do we really hope to help people stay accountable for building that wealth, it's really all based on what you can do financially, and in all honesty, as long as you follow your steps, you will be in a better place. Now, we can't guarantee that everybody's going to be a millionaire. We can't do that. But we're going to try our best, our absolute best, to help you figure out what that goal is going to be and how we can get there. And the best part about that is that we're agnostic to how much money you have. We are not beholden to if you have $10 versus the guy who has $10,000. We're going to help you exactly the same because our revenue does not get affected by that. Some of those other apps, and again, I'm not talking bad about them, but the way their business is structured, they have to have more wealthy people on their platform, so they don't necessarily get to care about people who have $0 in their bank account. We get to, and that's what we're really excited about, because we get to help people like that.
Okay, good. Mic's on. First off, great speech. The story about your mom resonated very well. I'm also a registered financial advisor, and the reason I got into it is because my parents had no money acumen at all. My question is, it seems like the app, the process would be download the app, create a profile, and start inputting your money habits. I'm going to guess that part is hands-off on your part. That's the free part. Once they start inputting money habits, then they can develop the plan. What I've found with clients is that most don't know their money habits, and I fear that the dropout rate at that point is going to be immense, because once they start being faced with, I got to answer, what am I spending, what am I income, like all these things, they start dropping out before you get paid, and that could be a bit of a headache. So I'm just curious if you've seen any of that, or if it's even too early to tell.
So let me ask you a question. Do you use Money Guide Pro, or have you ever seen any of those products?
No, I just sit down with clients and talk them through, and if it's not for me pushing them to get that done, most of them would just walk away.
Perfect. So the best, I would say probably, besides the fee or the lack of fee, the best part about our product is that there's literally no input from the actual user. We ask for an email and password we basically go through an onboarding process of your whole financial picture, and we ask for your email and password to those institutions. We don't touch any of your banking data, we don't touch any of your personal data. That's just a feed that we get through our third-party provider, and it's fully automatic. That's probably the best part. There's literally almost zero, there's 1% human input, which allows us for 1% human error on that. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, I've noticed, just looking around the room, that we're not all 20-somethings.
Yes, ma'am.
And so...
I knew I was going to get this question.
My question is, you said you had these talks with your mom. What do you offer for people? Obviously, they may not be able to obtain millionaire status, but something is better than nothing. So what do you offer for someone who is closer to retirement, who, as far as through your app, how can that help
Absolutely.
them?
So this is great, because this is exactly what my mom asked me whenever I was telling her about the app the very first time. So the way that we're approaching folks that are above 40, because when you look at compounding interest, it's just, it makes the plan very, very hard as you get closer to retirement. So what we do is at the age of 40, we switch you from like if you download the app and you're 40 years old, we switch it from age of retirement at 65 to age majority of death at 87, and now the app is focused on passing on wealth versus you getting to enjoy the wealth. It's really passing it on to the second generation.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And I did forget one thing before I get to the next question. So it doesn't really, we didn't talk about this much, but as long as you are able to use the phone and be able to do a bunch of, do Facebook and that kind of thing, if you are in that age group, we absolutely want to help you as well. It's not just for young people, it's for everybody. It's just, those are the folks that we're going after. We're at MVP stage right now, and so that's why we're focused on that younger demographic, but it works for absolutely everybody. So.
So I have two questions. First, I want some clarity on what it is that you're doing. Are you helping with spending habits? Are you helping people invest or save? Or is it creation of new income? Or where are you in that, or all of them? Or how does that look?
Yeah, so what it is, it's a financial plan. So what it does is it takes what you're doing right now and it's giving you how much you're going to be worth at age 65 based on how your assets are currently handled right now. So if you have a 401k, if you have an IRA, if you have debt, we're going to take all that into consideration and show you how much you're going to be worth at age 65. And then we work backwards from that to show you, okay, you have a lot of debt here, we're going to try and reduce this debt here, and that will make your net worth figure grow in the future, okay? It's all based on compounding interest. And what it's doing is it's just kind of bringing, that your decisions today actually do matter. That $5 coffee that you bought this morning actually has a ripple effect to your 65-year-old self. So that's really where we're going out with the app. We do not recommend investments, and there's a reason for that. There's plenty of apps that do that right now. What we do, especially in the investment section, is optimize the investments. So for an individual like yourself, you're probably working right now, you have a 401k, you might have an IRA. There's actually a sequential way you should go about funding your 401k and funding your IRA. And I could get into that offline with you because I would go down a rabbit hole that you will absolutely love, but I don't want to bore everybody else because I get very passionate about this kind of stuff, and that's why it's so important to me. So if you want to talk about it offline, we definitely can.
Sure, yeah. Then the next question is, I guess two-part, are you ready to start marketing this, and how are you marketing this? How are you getting users on here?
Absolutely. So we are at what you would call MVP stage right now, and we are launching our beta December 5th. And so this actually leads directly into what you do for us. We really, really would love for everybody to go to our website. It takes like a second, and then this link is going to pop up there. If you'll join for our beta group, we're going to be releasing that beta early access in December 5th timeframe, and then we're planning on launching full MVP in January. So that's really what you can be helping us with right now, and what we're looking forward to. So.
Deborah Macon. I love the app, researching apps just like this for my kids right now. You made one statement that is so unlikely, I almost consider it patently false, which is that Social Security will be gone by X date.
Yes.
That's a misunderstanding fundamentally the way politics works in this country. So, and there are also a lot of government benefits that are available to people who make under even as much as $50,000, $55,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have those government programs factored into your app so you can tell people, check this out in your state, this might be available? And are you factoring in at least current law in terms of Social Security benefits?
Absolutely. So we do have Social Security within the app, but as far as the other benefits, are you mentioning like Medicare and some of those other supplementals? Yeah, exactly. So we do not have, again, this is MVP at this stage right now. We will build that functionality. Right now it's a team of 3. So I have 2 engineers who are not from finance, and so we're trying to get all those things integrated in there. But as far as Social Security, these are projections that we've read. Again, everything's likely subject to change, right? I mean, you could see a tweet today, and we could go down another 200 points on the Dow. So we absolutely are including Social Security in there. But as far as some of the other supplements, we're still working on getting that integration. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that on the onboarding process, I was going to have to give you my banking password and username, right? So I see that as a major turn-off for people, and I also see it as a huge security liability for you, because now all of a sudden you have to protect all that data. How are you going to handle that?
Absolutely. So we have bank-level security. We work with our third-party provider who has access to over 50,000 different financial institutions. And we not only rely on their security, we also rely on the bank that you currently hold security and Amazon Web Services. So it's actually like a trifecta of some of the largest companies in the world. We do not touch your data. I mean, it's funny, people talk about bankings and they automatically think about their social security number. We have no access to that. And not only that, we have no access to move money in your account. So all we see are numbers that come to our end. And we use those numbers to plug into our financial simulator that runs our program to be able to give you that number. That's really all we do with it, and I understand it's a hurdle. But at the end of the day, we want to build this thing for you, the user, and to do that, we have to make a lot of things automated. Because at the end of the day, one of the big problems with financial plans, if you go to a person down the street and do one, is they're going to ask you how much money you need at age 65. I don't know about you all, but I have no idea how much money I need at age 65. And so we use that part of our program to be able to do the math behind that and actually get that So great question, though. Absolutely. That'll be a hurdle for us.
I guess I'm the last question, so I have to be quick. How do you
Yes,
plan to scale? You're a team of 3. It sounds like you have a high touch at the beginning in terms of making a plan. What does that look like? Are you sitting down? You're reviewing it? What's automated? You're going to bring on more staff? What does that look like?
So the great thing about our app is that unlike we do have we have one competitor in the space now, which is fully on your phone. They are what you just described, where you put in, it's all manual entry, and then they, on the back end, it takes 2 to 4 weeks to get you your plan back. And they have certified financial planners on staff that handle that. But it takes 2 to 4 weeks. Most of my friends aren't going to wait 2 to 4 minutes, let alone 2 to 4 weeks to stay in an app. So ours is completely automated, so no human touches it. It's all based on an algorithm that we run, and it gets you that back within, I think it's under 45 seconds now. So.
Thank you. Final question, what can we as a community do for you?
Absolutely. So besides this right here, we're brand new to this. We're probably the youngest company at Fountain City FinTech, and we really don't know what we don't know. So any kind of input, having the experts up here was perfect. It's so funny you mentioned the fidgeting thing, because that is so me, and you could ask probably Megan and Zach, and they'd say the same thing. Really just people we should meet in the community, organizations we should meet in the community, and really if you think we could help somebody, whether it's an urban organization like you have or whatever you may have, we want to be the pillar of financial planning and really financial services in Kansas City. And that's a big goal for us, but that's what we want to attain. So any way that you see that we can help add value for you or your organizations, please let us know.
Thank you. Let's give them a big hand. A message from our friends at Startland News.
Welcome to another SLN recap. I'm Startland News reporter Austin Barnes. Let's get you straight to today's top stories. H-Dartblock CEO Jeff Jones says he wants to tap into the energy of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Jones says reconnecting with the city and getting involved with innovative happenings in the startup space will help propel the company further as he looks to write its next chapter. The CEO took the wheel of the tax prep company last fall. He says he's still navigating ways to connect with local entrepreneurs. Locally owned KC Beer Company is brewing new ideas about regional expansion. Founder of the German-style brewing company Steve Hawley says rapid expansion in unknown territories is to blame for the collapse of Manhattan-based competitor Tallgrass Brewing Company. Hawley says his company will focus on keeping their footprint small and building community partnerships to avoid overextending operations. A former school principal wants students and teachers to have every chance to survive should they find themselves in an active shooter situation. Jeff Green has launched Safe Defend, an active shooter response system that sends alerts throughout the school community as well as detailed information to law enforcement within seconds of an incident. Launched in response to the murder of 3 people at Jewish sites in Overland Park in 2014, Safe Defend was recently installed at the Hyman Brand Hebrew Academy and Jewish Community Center's Child Development Center in Overland Park. Those are the stories trending around town this week, but as always, you can find more on StartlandNews.com.
All right, time for Mud Club. Let's give them a hand. Thank you. It's time for Mud Club. If you've been to 10 1 Million Cups meetings or more, please stand up. 10 or more, please stand up. If you haven't, that's good. Well, hey, it looks good. If you haven't received one of these beautiful mugs, remain standing. And Caitlin's going to pick out someone. Okay. And I see somebody in the back.
I mean, she dressed up, so she deserves it.
There you go.
My name is Jessica McCune, and I work here in Plexpod for a startup called Solozo, and we help Amazon sellers with their Amazon business. And we're actually presenting on December 12th here at 1 Million Cups, which is part of the reason why I'm here. But I started coming from some advice from some caffeinators that are some friends of mine, and I just love it. And so I do my best not to miss it, and I'm super excited for us to present.
Thank you. I want to mention our caffeinators. Caffeinators, if you're here, stand up, please. Caffeinators. These are men and women who volunteer their time and their talents to help you navigate this thing called Main Cups. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions, you can always go to a caffeinator before or after a meeting. Also, we want you to know that applications are open for those that are interested in being a community organizer, like Caitlin and myself. Go to our Twitter site, Facebook site, yeah, basically that's it. And if you haven't downloaded our app, please do that. Let me see here. We've got our next presenter with track, Trent Bigelow.
Hi everybody, I'm Trent from track.tax. And I know it sounds really sexy, right? We're going to talk about taxes. But actually, just like Destiny talked about earlier, this presentation and our story, and hopefully my story and our teams, isn't about taxes, it's about, or even money, it's about independence. So, my two co-founders and I, about 2 years ago, went on this pretty crazy journey. From being probably like many of you in this room that are employees, we became contractors, which in many ways is another way of saying you're losing your jobs, right? You went from being an employee to being freelance. Okay? And what was shocking was that change wasn't just about going out and trying to find your next job or your next gig or your next paycheck. But once you got that paycheck, there was this incredible reality that sunk in that when we became our own boss. We were our own HR department, our own marketing, our own BD, and most of all, again, going back to being the HR department, we weren't even prepared when we got paid, which is a good day, right? So when we got paid, there was this thing that we took for granted when we were all employees. Many of you probably aren't thinking about this every time you get paid. It's pay stub. So right there, around number 12, 13, and 14, that is the luxury that so many of us take for granted when we're employees. Because when you're a freelancer, you have to do your own accounting. You need to make sure that you never spend what you owe to the government, right? So that's easier said than done. For a lot of people, if the money is in your bank account, you'll probably spend it. That was true for me. So there are other tools out there. People have heard of like QuickBooks, Self-Employed, lots of other accounting apps. In fact, in Silicon Valley, there's a bunch of startups that are all trying to make accounting easier for the freelancer. But the reality is, we don't need accounting. We need what we had when we were employees. We need tax automation. And it wasn't just the three of us. There are 50 million self-employed Americans. And for us to go through, for all of them to go through what we went through, we think that's fundamentally unfair. We think that there's actually a benefits gap, just as much as there's a wage gap. So we set off on a mission to make this right. So our mission at Track isn't just taxes. It starts there, but it's really about closing the benefits gap between being an employee and being your own boss. So there's a reason, though, that nobody else has done this. And the reason that no one has made taxes easy and automatic is that they're actually inherently confusing, complex. And there's also a lot of complications around it. So it took us 2 years and a lot of data science, machine learning, and AI, but most of all, a really deep study about how all of us work and how we tick through behavioral science. Our app actually detects 1099 income. It's able to predict and discern your income on your linked bank account and do what all of us had when we were employees. It can detect which income is actually taxable, and then it will instantly give you a tax calculation in ratio with the money in the bracket that you're already in. And then the best thing that nobody else does is it actually sets aside the money into a dedicated tax savings account. And this is really cool. We're the first ever to come up with the concept of not making freelancers have to wait until next April to get a refund. If you are withholding, just like you would as an employee with your employer, you actually get that refund every quarter that you turn your expenses into deductions. And if you've done all that through the year, you're in a great position when the end of the year comes around. You don't end up owing money on April 15th. You're actually able to just have it like the rest of the employed Americans get. So our members say that this feels like magic. So think about that. Something that all of us take for granted of our employees, that is the most boring thing ever, is one of the hardest things for 50 million freelancers in America. So we've actually been up to some pretty exciting things just in the last year. First thing is, with even just a small number of users, our system has already analyzed $500 million in transactions, resulting in $1 million in tax withholdings on behalf of our members. And along the way, we've been recognized by Deloitte, a much, much bigger tax name than us. And to some of the comments we heard earlier about how is young founders creating new fintech companies, how are we going to understand to make sure that we serve everyone? We're excited that our very first business-to-business to consumer channel partner is actually AARP Foundation. Because we're going to admit that us young guys, we don't necessarily know everything, and we certainly don't know how to make this tool better for our parents and older. So it started with the three of us, and some really kind of interesting backgrounds, and this company is really now at the point where it's becoming just more than the three of us. But Alex, he is the most amazing engineer and product manager you can ever imagine. We're lucky to have him. He actually was part of the team that built the world's first native advertising system for mobile at Emobi. And then our wild card, Chris Lubasky, he actually, in addition to being both a CFA and a machine learning expert, he actually co-founded Favorite Delivery, which is kind of like Postmates of the South, which gives us a much better understanding of how we can serve gig economy workers. And then my background is actually part of the team that created the very first mobile apps for the Department of Defense. So, roll with it, right? There's a real big reason why we're actually here today in Kansas City. And the reason is that we have been in a search all across America for the right place for us to start growing and hiring more people. There's a lot of great things about Silicon Valley, but one of the things that I think we're lacking is a little bit of care, love, understanding, and dedication sometimes, and certainly humility. And that's one thing that attracted us, first to Fountain City FinTech, and then to Kansas City as a whole. And again, the real reason is because we care, and so do you. That's the thing that we've been learning. One way that we can get your help here in Kansas City is by connecting us with the most amazing people that you know, that you think maybe share the same mission or the same belief that we need to bring access to affordable benefits, starting with tax withholding, to 50 million self-employed Americans. We're looking for the smartest, most dedicated, caring people in Kansas City in customer support, engineering, and marketing. And it really comes down to passion and dedication and caring so that we can stand shoulder to shoulder together to actually solve this problem for, again, 15 million self-employed Americans. Thank you so much.
Great presentation. I really enjoyed that. It's very detailed. I understand what you do. And I'm one of those people who have been self-employed for 20 years, so I could use that 20 years ago. So that's great. So can you talk about the startup? Because it sounds like the setup is a lot on the front end. Can you describe that a little bit in accessing?
So I think you're right. The setup for the longest time, for the last 2 years, has been, I wouldn't say a nightmare, but it's been a lot of friction. You know, getting people ready for taxes take a lot of steps. And so actually just recently we got to the point where, by listening to our customers and understanding what are their goals in the very beginning, that first session, what can we do that's manual, that doesn't require a link to the bank account, that doesn't require a social security number, all those things that we're going to need eventually for taxes. And we've completely reoriented how we work so that we can, kind of like Destiny, build a journey one step at a time with you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the belief in the city and moving what you're doing here to us in what sounds like intentionally. If it wasn't, you guys did a hell of a spin job. Have you looked at how to capitalize on how this is spinning out, like going to the city, going to the EDC, being like, hey, poster child for hire. Not to be too manipulative, but I feel like that's a place where you could squeeze some extra out of moving it here. And is that part of your plan, if you're willing to open up about that?
I'm more than happy to open up about that. It's true that NBKC and Fountain City FinTech brought us here. They put KC on the map for us. But once we got here, it's really from talking from everybody like you guys. We're open to any kind of assistance that we can get so that we can hire more people sooner. I think in general, our investors have been very patient with us. We're not that typical Silicon Valley startup that goes off and raises a bunch of money from the big VCs. We've heard a lot of horror stories sometimes about building the business you want versus the business they want. We've been very fortunate to have people that have believed in us. And I think it often comes from having conversations like this, taking big decisions slowly. But it's a long, fancy way of saying, yes, we'll take all the help we can get, and we'll definitely look into those places.
So you mentioned investors. How far are you in that process? Or how much have you raised so far?
Sure. So I'll say that we've raised less than $1 million, but more than $500,000. We intended to go out and raise, what is a traditional Silicon Valley seed round, about $3 million. We were very fortunate enough to actually be able to secure a sizable contract with one of our channel partners that essentially allowed us to get paid up front for most of that, which meant that we could push off the actual next VC raise. I think that Silicon Valley has a reputation of chasing VCs at all costs. And I noticed that outside the Valley, startups are not just more humble, but they're more realistic about that, investor dollars don't count as revenue dollars. That's not fundamentally changing your business's bottom line. You're just selling chunks of your company.
What's next?
That's my favorite thing. I actually, in addition to fidgeting as well as my weakness, my other weakness is seeing the bigger pictures, that I'm so excited about our roadmap and everything we're going to do. And our team has gotten so good at being honest about what are we focusing on today. Today is tax withholding. We went not just 0 to 100 on tax withholding. It's the most automatic tax withholding experience any freelancer could ever get. The next step is, think about those 4 refunds a year instead of the 1 in April. Those are 4 moments in your year that you're actually going to be having a little bit of extra bonus cash. Could we get you to put that into your retirement account? Could we get you to roll that over to an emergency fund? Even for some people that have medical issues, could we get them to put it in an HSA? How can we take that bonus magic money and actually get them to set it aside? So retirement accounts. The next piece after that would be health insurance. So again, for you that have freelanced, and for all of you that have freelanced before, one of the scariest things is not knowing where you're going to be, what's going to be covered, and those big, amazing, crazy, catastrophes that happen from health insurance. And I think we all know somebody who's gone through that. Our goal would be to actually create, the big picture vision is to create the country's largest association healthcare plan. That's step 100. Step 1 is certainly creating a new, partnership with brokers and marketplaces.
The library got caught with its pants down. Sorry, supervisor in the audience. In 2008, right? Because the world changed suddenly. And instead of just being like, can you help me research costuming in the 1800s, people were like, I need a job. Can you help me write a resume now? How about this online application? And there's a trend across the nation right now in public libraries to prepare ourselves for you, people that are now contract workers, and the fact that more than 50% of the workforce might look like that in 15 years. And we're trying to be ahead of the curve on that. So very selfishly, do you have any advice for the public library on how we can do that? Man, I am stealing stuff today. You shouldn't have let me wear this pirate costume.
Okay, since you put me on the spot, maybe we can start with your library. We can make a case study for other libraries.
Sure.
So here's my offer.
Yeah.
My offer is we'll do the same partnership opportunity that we do with others in the nonprofit space, which is instead of charging $10 a month for our service to do all the stuff we talked about, we have a nonprofit program where we actually give this service. Tax withholding is free, tax refunds are free, and we only charge a small fee every quarter if you want us to submit to the IRS. So if we want to start with your library, let's start there.
We're going to turn over to our audience at this point. With
Can I just ask one more? You said you're the only one out there doing this right now?
Since we started, there have been 2 other companies that we have our eye on that have also seen tax withholding. Not everybody else does the quarterly submission, and no one does income detection, and no one does refunds.
So when would you be launching do you have a date for launch?
We launched in January. We're live. We're at track.tax.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at the end there, you kind of answered my question in that because I'm a contractor, and to me, it's the paperwork issue that I hate every quarter, so I pay an accountant to do that. So you said there's a small fee for the paperwork portion. What would that be?
What would the fee be?
Yeah, like every quarter I got to file a bunch of stuff, and now it's just a headache, so I pay somebody to do that, to send some forms.
So I don't know how much you're paying the expert to do it. We want to make this affordable. We want everyone to have access, so it's $30 a quarter.
Okay.
There's a lady from the FBI back there, so careful what you're saying. Two quick questions. I got a text right at the end, so I may have missed it, but I didn't see a way that I could download or get signed up. So what is that?
Ooh, you're like a plant. Thank you so much. It is at www. Actually, wait. Oh man, there we go. It's there. www.track.tax. I'm glad you asked.
Thank you. Thank you. Plug that more, by the way. Second question is, so I have a staff of subcontractors, so is there a way that I can benefit them by maybe paying for this for them or giving them a discount, something like that in bulk?
I think you could do either. What we've done so far is by negotiating discounts, on the basis of how many people. To be honest, we've also given discounts based on where we think missions aligned. So the fact that you're even telling me that you'd pay for this for your team probably means that you probably care. So I think you get the KC Care discount.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Grace, and this is my first Million Cups meeting.
Me too.
And I came because I was so intrigued by your company. And I have been working effectively as an independent contractor since 2010, but I've been doing what I do for the last 18 years.
Can we get an applause for that first?
So I've always done a pretty good job of just, I'll call it guesstimating and managing my taxes. And my husband had been working for the same company for 9 years, and a year and a bit ago he switched companies, and we live in Kansas City where you've got the Kansas side and the Missouri side. And one of the things I didn't factor into consideration was his move from Kansas to Missouri was gonna hugely impact like what my contribution, our collective contribution was gonna be. And so for the first time ever, our tax bill came and it was like, holy moly, like hugely more, we owed way more. And I was like, okay.
That's the
So my question is, does your product take into consideration dual income, right? And how that might impact take it out.
Absolutely.
It does, okay. That is fantastic.
Yep. And it also takes into consideration the concept of non-1099 income. So you go into the settings and you say, person 1 makes this much in their W-2 job, person 2 makes this much in their W-2 job, or has, capital gains. We created it so that it's as easy and as, open as you are willing to be. It will essentially act kind of like a tax preparer, but for the quarterly, not for the end of year.
Okay, and you kind of answered my next question from the last person, but it sounds like you can control how open or closed I want to be. Like, if I don't want to share my social security number or whatever, you can still do the work for me, but then I can go file and do it. Is that correct?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Diana Pastrana. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, so this was great to see. Thank you for sharing your story. You addressed a very difficult situation that people are in and having to deal with, But when I'm viewing this, the gig economy is exploding, and there's a lot of people who would love to be in a contractor position and run their own company and have that entrepreneurial spirit, but they're actually not doing it because they don't have tools like you're offering. So in your marketing, are you honoring and empowering and talking about the positive business applications that are the business experiences people are having by being in the gig economy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And short answer is yes. And we actually call them Inside Track. That's our blog dedicated to profiling first our members, and then we ask our members to introduce and nominate other amazing independent workers that deserve to be covered. As we grow and our resources grow, we want to kind of pick up where we worked leaves off as far as some of the profiles that they talk about. I'm sure PlexPod does the same.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
I had another question. Does yours, right here, does it also take into consideration when you work in other states? Does it all, so as contractors, I might be based in Kansas City, but do business in another state?
It does. So that's, again, one of those advanced settings. You go in there, by default, it assumes only one state, but you can go in there and create as many entries as you need to.
First of all, this is incredible. As soon as you started, I'm signed up already. I got my bank account linked, and it already told me how much.
The future.
Like, user experience is ridiculous. I was so impressed, and it told me how much I should withhold already, like just instantly. So awesome stuff. But I was wondering, I'm like super 2018. I get paid on Venmo by my clients. Does it?
That's okay. So we're going to do a live customer support session right here. So just to kind of explain how our machine learning works real quickly. If you keep marking that Venmo in the beginning as as 1099 income, it's going to look at the size of that transaction. It's going to be looking for patterns. It's going to be looking for any kind of pattern it can find, the time of day, what day of the week, how big. If there's a pattern to that, it'll see it. If there's not, keep an eye out. It might think that all your Venmos over a certain amount of money are 1099. So just go in to make sure that you don't over withhold too much, unless you want a big refund later.
So they're really inconsistent. It's commission, it's depending on the size. So is that, how is that?
I would say anything over $50, you're probably going to be fine. Anything under $50, you probably want to make sure to watch, make sure it doesn't, think that getting paid back from your friends for dinner is 1099.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A final question, what can we as a community do for you?
Thank you. First off, keep being amazingly caring. That's the best thing. I think that I'd love for Track to be a case study for Silicon Valley companies that find their way out of the valley and realize that there's a lot of talent outside. So that's the first thing. Let MBKC and Fountain City FinTech and our team at Track know of people that we should be aware of, people who care about the mission we're on, who you think who deserve to be at the forefront of really, this movement. We would love to meet the people while we're here and start growing our team. So introduce us to people you know. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning. Before we let you go, we have a quick FBI raid. Announcement from our gracious host here at PlexPod Westport Common.
Hi everyone, I'm Elena and I work for PlexPod. I just wanted to let you all know that there's free co-working going on every Wednesday over in the Annex, and you're welcome to join us. Also today, in honor of Halloween, we are showing Hocus Pocus right after this in the theater. We'll have popcorn and candy, so feel free to go grab a cup of coffee, take a quick 10-minute break, and then we're going to start the movie. So you're all welcome to stay.
Happy Halloween, everyone. We will see you next week right here at 9 a.m. for presentations from Determination Incorporated and Riverwatch B. Have a good one.